Welcome back, everyone. Grab your popcorn because today's story is packed with shocking twists, emotional moments, and secrets that change everything. Let's jump right in. The landscape of the Port Charles Police Department is undergoing a seismic shift, and the tremors are being felt throughout the entire city. For years, the PCPD has operated under a unique, albeit morally ambiguous, set of unwritten rules. The officers and detectives who walk these halls have long understood that in a town dominated by powerful families, mob bosses, and complex interpersonal histories, the letter of the law must sometimes be bent to achieve true justice. However, the arrival of rookie detective Joe Fitzpatrick, portrayed with a chillingly rigid intensity by Jonathan Bennett, threatens to tear down this carefully balanced ecosystem. Joe has marched into the precinct with a chip on his shoulder and an unwavering belief that he is the sole arbiter of right and wrong, setting the stage for a massive personality clash with one of Port Charles's most beloved and fiercely loyal officers, Harrison Chase, played by the incredibly talented Josh Swickard. To truly understand the gravity of the impending collision between Chase and Joe, one must first analyze the psychological makeup of Joe Fitzpatrick. From the moment he first set foot in the Port Charles Police Department, Joe made it abundantly clear that he operates strictly by the book, a stark contrast to the seasoned veterans who have learned to navigate the gray areas of the city. Longtime General Hospital viewers will vividly recall Joe's initial, highly tense interactions with Port Charles Police Commissioner Dante Falconeri, brought to life by Dominic Zamprogna. Joe immediately sensed an underlying current of leniency within the department, a tolerance for certain individuals that deeply offended his black and white sensibilities. He did not hesitate to voice his concerns directly to Dante, audaciously questioning whether the commissioner was truly fit to lead the department. It was a bold, almost reckless move for a newcomer, but somehow Joe managed to maintain his position on the force. The audacity of Joe Fitzpatrick did not stop at questioning Dante's leadership style. His self-righteousness reached new heights when he discovered the ultimate open secret of Port Charles, the fact that Dante's father is none other than the notorious convicted mob boss Sonny Corinthos, played by the legendary Maurice Benard. For a rigidly rule-bound cop like Joe, the idea of the police commissioner being the son of the city's most powerful organized crime figure is an irreconcilable conflict of interest. Yet, hypocritically, Joe has chosen to stay at the PCPD. He has not yet launched a full-scale investigation into Sonny Corinthos, perhaps biding his time, or perhaps realizing that taking down the Teflon Don is a task too massive even for his inflated ego. Instead, Joe has pivoted his intense, uncompromising focus toward a different, highly sensitive target, leading him directly into a treacherous web of lies, secrets, and dangerous cover-ups. The current epicenter of Joe's obsession is the tragic and deeply mysterious Ashford crash that occurred on Route 91. This incident has cast a long, dark shadow over several prominent residents of Port Charles, and Joe is determined to uncover the truth, regardless of the collateral damage he causes along the way. His investigation recently led him to the doorstep of the Kane residence, setting the stage for a masterclass in manipulative interrogation tactics. Joe arrived at the home of Drew Kane, played by Cameron Matheson, not with a formal warrant or a straightforward line of questioning, but with a deeply deceptive strategy. In a move that completely contradicts his supposed adherence to the rules, Joe utilized a classic, albeit underhanded, police tactic. He feigned the need to use the restroom to gain unfettered access to the interior of the house and to catch Drew off guard. Once inside, Joe's true intentions were unmasked. He began to pepper Drew with highly suggestive, leading questions regarding the events of that fateful night. Specifically, Joe was aggressively probing into the possibility that Willow was present on Route 91 during the exact time frame of the Ashford crash. The tension in the Kane house was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Drew, a man who has endured unimaginable psychological and physical trauma over the years, found himself backed into a corner by the relentless rookie detective. In a moment of intense pressure, under the barrage of Joe's calculated interrogation, Drew made a critical, nonverbal admission. When asked questions about Willow's presence at the crash site, questions to which he desperately should have answered with a firm no, Drew instinctively and tellingly blinked yes. This micro-expression, a fleeting but undeniable confirmation, was all the ammunition Joe Fitzpatrick needed to escalate his crusade. However, Joe's manipulative interrogation was abruptly derailed by the timely and highly protective intervention of Harrison Chase. By sheer coincidence, Chase happened to be at the Kane residence at that exact moment. His purpose for being there was entirely unrelated to the Ashford crash. Chase had arrived to formally and in person decline a highly prestigious professional offer from Willow, who had recently asked him to serve as her chief of staff. But the moment Chase sensed the predatory nature of Joe's questioning, his police instincts and his deep-seated protective nature kicked into high gear. Chase immediately stepped in, physically and verbally positioning himself between the aggressive rookie detective and a clearly cornered Willow. Following this explosive encounter at the Kane house, Joe Fitzpatrick's behavior took an even darker, more rogue turn. Frustrated by Willow's evasive answers and deeply resentful of Chase's interference, Joe realized he had enough circumstantial evidence bolstered by Drew's nonverbal confirmation to make a move. However, instead of following standard police protocol, Joe decided to completely bypass the established chain of command. In a functioning police department, an officer seeking an arrest warrant based on such flimsy, aggressively obtained evidence would be required to present their findings to their immediate superior. In the PCPD, that superior is the legendary Max Scorpio, played by the iconic John J. York, who currently serves as the chief of detectives. But Joe Fitzpatrick knows that Max Scorpio is a seasoned veteran who would instantly recognize the flawed, manipulative nature of his interrogation at the Kane house. Furthermore, the timing of Joe's rogue actions is highly opportunistic. Commissioner Dante Falconeri is currently out of town on a desperate, deeply personal mission. Dante, alongside Lulu Spencer, portrayed by the returning Alexa Havens-Bruning, has left Port Charles to search for Rocco Falconeri, played by Finn Carr. With Dante distracted by this critical family emergency and physically absent from the precinct, Joe saw a glaring vulnerability in the department's leadership structure and ruthlessly exploited it. The stage is now set for an epic, potentially career-ending showdown within the walls of the Port Charles Police Department. If Justine Turner grants the warrant and Joe succeeds in having Willow brought into the station for formal questioning or arrest, he will inevitably run straight into an immovable object, Harrison Chase. It goes without saying that if Willow is dragged into the precinct while Chase is on duty, he will not stand idly by. Chase will utilize every ounce of his knowledge, his remaining authority, and his physical presence to shield Willow from Joe's aggressive tactics. He will demand legal representation for her, scrutinize every detail of Joe's warrant, and actively obstruct any attempt to railroad her based on Drew's blinking confession. Joe, anticipating this resistance, is already preparing his counterattack. He is fully prepared to run directly back to acting DA Justine Turner to report Chase's interference. Justine, emboldened by her acting title and eager to assert her dominance over the police department, firmly believes she possesses the unilateral authority to fire Chase for insubordination. The political and legal machinery of Port Charles is being weaponized against one of its most dedicated officers. But before the situation escalates to termination, Joe will deliver a chilling face-to-face warning to Chase. He will explicitly command the patrol cop to back off, arrogantly asserting that a uniformed officer has no right to interfere in a detective's active investigation. Joe's superiority complex is blinding him to the reality of the situation. As a newcomer, he genuinely believes he is the only competent, uncorrupted officer in the entire city, completely dismissing the vast experience and moral compass of men like Chase. However, Joe Fitzpatrick's rogue operation is a ticking time bomb. His arrogance and blatant disregard for the chain of command are setting him up for a spectacular fall. When Dante Falconeri finally returns to Port Charles from his agonizing search for Rocco with Lulu, he will be furious to discover that a rookie detective exploited his absence to launch an unauthorized, politically charged witch hunt. Furthermore, when the highly respected chief of detectives, Max Scorpio, uncovers the fact that Joe deliberately bypassed him to secure a warrant from the acting DA, the backlash will be severe. Joe is about to learn a very painful lesson in the realities of police work in Port Charles. Insubordination, especially when it involves targeting the loved ones of your fellow officers and disrespecting the veterans who built the department, is an offense that carries devastating consequences. The coming week promises intense confrontations, shifting allegiances, and a battle for the very soul of the PCPD as Chase and Joe go head-to-head.